Well, for more, let's speak to Rob Parsons here in the studio. I mean, Rob, good to have you as ever. You heard from Charles Michel there, speaking that, saying ultimately he's confident that this is going to go ahead. I mean, at this stage, given that all of these leaders are in Brussels, they're poised to discuss this. Are there any doubts that EU will have its candidate status?
Well, the astonishing thing is, no, really. A few weeks ago, the idea that Ukraine could have got all 27 members of the European Union to give the green light to its candidate membership would have been regarded as ludicrous. If you bear in mind that you mentioned that Ukraine put its application in just 4 months ago, just days after the invasion by Russia into Ukraine, 10 of the European Union members then had their doubts about it and expressed them quite openly. But yet here we are, 4 months later, and the situation seems to have changed absolutely. Normally speaking, the time from putting in an application to achieving candidate membership takes years, not months or days. So it really is quite extraordinary that we've got to this point so quickly. And the reason for that, quite obviously, is the war in Ukraine and the sense in the European Union that Ukraine is being punished, at least in part by Russia, for its aspirations to join Europe. It is being brutally attacked in a completely unjustified way by Russia simply because it wants to break free from Russia's orbit. And because Russia, as Vladimir Putin has put it, does not recognize Ukraine even as a country. And it is in part because of that, to satisfy those aspirations of the Ukrainians, that things are moving so fast. Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, said it for him and for Ukrainians, it's like moving from darkness into light. That's how important it is for them, and critically important psychologically and for the morale of the Ukrainian people who are fighting an existential war now against the Russians.
I mean, we spoke about acceleration. It's clear that the application was done very soon, just days, Rob, after the Russian invasion there. But there are countries who have been waiting quite a while. We cited some before, North Macedonia, Albania, Montenegro. Could we see Ukraine, the whole process accelerated for them, bearing in mind the reforms that they still have to do?
Yeah. No, I think it's quite unlikely. I mean, who knows, given what we've just seen for the last few weeks with the acceleration of its push towards candidate membership. I'm assuming it's going to go through today. But assuming it does, there are a lot of obstacles still in the way. And you just pointed out one of them, the fact that there are several countries, particularly in the West Balkans, like Albania, Montenegro, North Macedonia, Serbia, who have been in the queue, who are already candidate members, who have been in the queue for a very long time, years. And, of course, they would be entitled to feel angry if Ukraine were to jump the queue and get in ahead of them. Ukraine would argue, well, that's not the way it works. It depends on what sort of progress you make towards the demands of the European Union. It says that although there has been criticism of Ukraine's performance, particularly in the years before the invasion by Russia of Ukraine, particularly on issues like rule of law, corruption, judicial reform, that it is now making that sort of progress. And what it needs now is a shot in the arm to keep things moving, to make use of the momentum that's being gathered at the moment and demonstrate to Russia that this is a process, this war is a process which is going to backfire against Russia. The brutality of this conflict has consolidated the support for Ukraine. Against that, though, there are doubts that it will move forward very fast. The Ukrainian ambassador to the European Union is talking about months rather than years, but it's not so long since Emmanuel Macron, the French president, was talking in terms of decades. It seems like he's changed his tune to some extent now. Of course, he was one of the 4 heads of state who went to Kiev, who really turned the tide in Ukraine's favor just a couple of weeks or so ago. But there are other things that work against Ukraine as well. The fact that there is considerable opposition to the whole notion of enlargement within the European Union for a variety of factors. The refugee crisis, the financial crisis, but also the frustration that many people have felt, particularly among Western European countries, about the obstacles put in the way of progress by countries like Hungary and Poland. So there is fear that more expansion will lead to more problems.
Okay, Rob Parsons, our Chief Foreign Affairs Editor. Thank you.